The air intake box is just barking away. Let me show you how I use that noise to diagnose a low compression on a cylinder. Hey guys, I'm really excited about this video. I've got a lot of really cool stuff. I'm going to try to break it down, give you a lot of the fundamentals, which alone is worth watching this video for. And it'll help you to be able to diagnose a compression problem. It'll be able to help you to identify where the problem is with a misfire, and if it is compression, where specifically, and how to narrow it down to a specific valve or piston or rings or whatever. Stay tuned, this is going to be awesome. I also want to give a shout out to Jason Stewart. He's from Lebanon, Missouri. He sent me, I think it's a license plate. You'll find out at the end of the video. So let's begin.
Brian's Mobile One.
First of all, we're going to cover a couple of basics, and then I'm going to show you how you can use that knowledge to diagnose a really tricky, misleading misfire. Misfire codes are P03 and then like 01 for cylinder 1. P0304 is cylinder 4 misfire. That's what I had on this little Ford vehicle. But the problem was it wasn't even 4, it was 3. I was able to find it using FastTech. It's an acronym for fuel air mixture. Spark, like your spark plug. T is for timing. That's the timing between the ignition timing and also the mechanical timing between the crankshaft where the piston is and the camshaft where your valves are. They all have to fire in time. E is for exhaust, exhaust coming out, your exhaust valves and exhaust pipe and everything. And then C for compression. That's what the failing was on that particular Ford vehicle that we're talking about in this video. So that's FastTech. We got to C for compression. We found the compression was low. I had about 150 psi all the way across. And then on cylinder 3, I had only like 97 psi, something like that. You'll find it in blue marker. I wrote it on the valve cover. That's a trick that you learn from wrecking yards. This car's like rusted out. It's on its last leg. It's almost going to go into the wrecking yard, so I took some liberties with that. With paint pen, it can stay a long time, but if you use brake cleaner, it's off, it's gone. Once I determined that it was compression that was causing the misfire on cylinder number 3, and I found that it was 3 because I did a compression test on all of them. I started on cylinder number 4, looking for issues. It had spark, it had injection, it had injector pulse, but it didn't have compression on number 3. Once I found this was about 150, I'm like, man, it's got everything. It's got all this FastTech. So I knew I could move on and check some other cylinders. Cylinder 3 was low, as I said. And so once you know that you have a low compression problem, that means that it's not sealing very good in the cylinder. There's a trick that you can do. I learned this again from some of the older mechanics that I've worked with. And what you do is you hook up an air compressor and you pressurize this. The compression on this should be about 150. So I had the compressor at 130, and then I take out the spark plug, I use the compression tester tube, hook it up to compressed air, and voila! If I hold the crank in place, especially if it's on the power stroke, when it's at the bottom, all of your valves will be closed. You can pressurize it and then see where it leaks out. That sounds really easy, but how do you make sure that it's right here? We'll cover that in just a minute, stay tuned. When it's in this position, you can determine where the leak is coming from, because it'll hiss. So there's certain places under the hood that you need to listen. There's one behind the car. So the tailpipe behind the car, obviously that's where you look to see if you have an exhaust leak at the exhaust valve and exhaust seat. Sometimes valve seats will fail or valves will fail. These old guys, they used to do valve jobs on cars constantly. They were always pulling off the cylinder head and redoing the valves and seats because they were made of inferior materials compared to the awesome stuff that we have to work with now. Now, while this is becoming a little bit of a lost art, and that's why this is such a cool, fun video for me to share with you guys, you still run into this now and then, and especially because our cylinder heads, which basically house all of the valves and the spark plug and the injectors and everything, some of them are in the head, some are in the intake manifold. But basically, once you pressurize it, there's only so many places that it can go out. As I said, the exhaust valve, if it's leaking, you'll hear a hissing and a blowing out of the tailpipe. If the intake valve is leaking or missing, either because of a broken valve spring that doesn't hold it up tight like it should, it'll cause it to bark or it'll cause it to hiss at the air filter box. So if you hear barking and hissing at the intake or the air filter box, you'll know that you've got an intake valve problem. Now this is cool because say that you do have a broken valve spring, you can take off the valve cover, which is like the little cap on top of the engine, pull that off, and you know exactly which cylinder was low. You know exactly to look at the intake side, the side that has on a cylinder head, the intake will have the intake manifold here. So the valves on this side, you can look at the springs and really scrutinize, take your time and really invest time in looking at those and be able to figure that out pretty quick. What's fun is if you know how a cylinder works, about the 4 different strokes, you can actually take out the spark plug and be able to push down hard enough on the valve spring to get a new valve spring on that by packing rope in there. You can send rope through that little opening in the hole, let it curl up, pile up, turn the crank, it'll hold the valve in place nice and tight against the valve seat. And you can actually push down, take the keepers out, take the top off, take the spring off, put a new one on, all without taking the cylinder head off. I mean, if that's what it, normally you have the cylinder head off so that you can support the valve from underneath. There's a big compressor that you hold the thing in. I've got a tool review. I'll leave a link in the end cards of this video. So those are 2 possibilities: leaking valves, exhaust, intake. What are the other possibilities? If we pressurize this little canister, this container that we call a cylinder, after all, the engine is an air pump. If you talk to a race chief, crew manager, or somebody that's in charge of doing race engines, they look at an engine as an air pump. It's all about pressures and flows. Where else can pressure be lost? This is the head gasket. It's the seal between the cylinder head and the cylinder itself, where you have the piston and your, your sleeves or whatever. If this gasket is leaking, it can leak into the water jacket, and you can detect that at the radiator cap. You can have a head gasket leak and have compression gases get to oil sometimes, but 9 times out of 10 is what I was going to say, it'll go into the water jacket. Where else can it leak? So we've covered here. You can have a spark plug problem where it leaks out the spark plug. Sometimes you can hear that when you're cranking it over. The other place usually would be piston rings, or a piston with a hole in the top of it. If air is leaking out the bottom end into the crankcase where you have the crankshaft, just think about it. Where do you put oil into an engine in order to get it to the crankcase and get it down into the oil pan where these gases would be? That's right, the oil cap. So where we pour the oil in for the oil cap, it drains down into the bottom here. So if the gases pressurize the whole crankcase and we pull off the oil cap, it'll blow out there. So isn't that cool? You hook up your compression tester, hook that to compressed air, make sure that it's in this position, and you can diagnose just like you had freaking x-ray vision or something. You can like see where the air's going without having to pull the cylinder head off, without dropping the oil pan or doing any of that kind of stuff. We do have borescopes and cameras and cool stuff that we can get in there and check this way, but just hooking up the air, just bam, you can diagnose something pretty quick. Now it's important to be able to know where your strokes are. A 4-stroke engine, when you think of a stroke, you think of a golf game, golf stroke or a tennis stroke. So the strokes are suck, squeeze, bang, blow, or the official one, that's what I like to call them. That's what I learned from older mechanics. But it is an intake stroke where it intakes the air in the fuel mixture, and the stroke is where the piston's moving. It's moving down. It's, just like a syringe, just, how they have a little vial, they stick it up in there and they suck it in, so it's going down, right? That's the first of the 2 strokes. You see the number 1 here. This is all like a picture of the same person with different facial expressions or different ages, but in this case it's pistons, cylinders, and it's the strokes. So the first stroke, it goes down, it's an intake stroke, suck, squeeze, bang, blow. So the next one is the valves close. This is the important part. When the piston's coming up from that, on this particular cylinder, it compresses the air-fuel mixture. That increases the temperature of it, and it increases the potency of it. If you have it all compressed, then it's more likely that it's going to be uniform, and that that air-fuel mixture is going to be concentrated as much at the spark plug as anywhere else. When this fires in the next one, the piston goes down, and the flame actually propagates as this goes down. Pressure's decreasing, as it expands, but that pressure is what called the power stroke because it's powering the crankshaft, it's powering the vehicle. The next one, we open again. Notice on the outside edges, one valve's open on this end and one valve is open on this end. All the stuff in the middle, you can hook up air and test the cylinder. Does that make sense? You've got air coming in, fuel coming in, everything's closed because it's squeezing it, nothing's getting out, and then it's going bang. You want all that pressure to go directly into the crankshaft. So this is closed, And then at the end, the exhaust valve opens and it pumps all the exhaust, all the smoke, if you will, out the tailpipe. It's actually water and carbon dioxide. If it's running good, there shouldn't be much smoke per se. That is one cylinder and it's 4 strokes. 1, 2, 3, 4. A 2-stroke engine, it fires every single time, and there's holes in the side for the intake and the exhaust, and that's how the intake and the exhaust go. And you have reed valves that work as the intake valve. And then, you know, for the exhaust, it just basically pumps it out through the hole. But you can have all kinds of things cause your valves to not close all the way. I talked about springs a couple of times. Another thing that can happen is that you can get something that gets in the way. Say it opens like this and crud gets in there or debris or something, and then it closes on the debris. That can cause a temporary condition. Fortunately, there's enough velocity of air moving through there to like blow it and clear itself, but not always. There can be times where things will get stuck in there. Anyway, I do hope you enjoyed the video. I want to give a shout out to Jason Stewart. He's from Lebanon, Missouri. He sent me a license plate. I'm going to crack that open right now on camera. I've got a couple of dash camera giveaways that are coming up, so stay tuned for that. You want to be early on that. You want to be in the notification squad when that goes down. I usually go through the comments and have people comment a certain thing. But check that out. I got a Missouri plate. Thanks, Jason. This is going to go up in the building. The building's actually happening now, so that's really exciting. It says, "Dear Brian, my name's Jason Stewart. I just watched your Jeep Cherokee thermostat video and saw you didn't have a Missouri tag, so I hope you enjoy. Thanks for the video. It helped me a lot." Jason Stewart. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm looking forward to having a bunch of the plates on display. You can see I've got, this is an American flag made out of plates. This is the United States, if you look over here, made out of plates. I would like to do something like this. This has already been done. I may do that in my own way, or I may come up with something new. But I really like having the tags to be able to do that, and so appreciate it. It was fun that these have the story, so appreciate that. I'm guessing that this came from a Jeep Cherokee. I could be wrong. Thanks for watching. Cheers. Enjoy the B8.
Bonus footage at the end.
So this is what you see when you look inside a pit box. And the pit box is where you have your pit crew chief, your pit crew, and whatever sponsors. If they pay enough money, you can sit at the top of this thing and be right in the action, be listening to everything that's going on. So you've got all kinds of air. You've got ones for a spare gun, the primary gun, tires, you know, for airing up the tires. Here you see the air chuck on it. It's for a Schrader valve. Power. You've got all kinds of technology on this thing. You've got TV screens, communications. I mean, the box is intense. There's all kinds of things. I said communication. Here's an antenna tower for that purpose. You've got a communications dish here. You've also got, all this is stemming from the pit box, bear in mind, but you've got a camera boom that goes up to a piezo camera, something that you can change position on, aim it where you want it to be. You've got your number flag. Look at the LED lighting to this thing. It's got holes in it so that it doesn't blow around. The air will move through it. It's highly, highly visible. Every advantage you can possibly get within the NASCAR rules, it's on this box.